This is KGW News at Sunrise.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for starting your weekend here with us. I'm Galen Etland. We appreciate you watching as we catch up after our national coverage of 9/11. Our Chris McGinnis joins us live again now with an update in our forecast. We are starting this day off so beautiful.
It is gorgeous out there this morning. Galen, we'll take you live to our solar vineyard camera here in the Dayton area. You can see the silhouette of Mount Hood off in the distance and a little bit of haze still in parts of the Willamette Valley. But I can tell you that the wildfire smoke is continuing to decrease across the region today. That trend will continue tomorrow, so I'm happy to share that news with you. Right now we're waking up to 57 in Portland. It's 54 Scappoose. Big picture statewide, we have some chilly pockets generally east of the Cascades. We've got some 40s and actually some 30s out in the hills of the Blues and the Wallowas. Right now it's 43 in Baker City. Bend sits at 54. The plan for today here in the Rose City, you know, and that should not say cloudy. I'm not sure why that's still on there. We've got some broken clouds in some parts of the area, but otherwise we are mostly sunny this morning. And we will go with full sunshine with highs in the upper 70s this afternoon. Galen, a really nice stretch of weather lies ahead, and also a real chance of rain in my 7-day forecast. We'll check that out coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Chris, thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Well, you can probably all remember where you were on September 11th, 2001, one of the darkest days in our nation's history. Already at this time today, exactly 20 years ago, the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center had collapsed. This morning in New York, Pennsylvania, and D.C., we've seen memorials honoring the nearly 3,000 people who died when planes crashed in a field, into the Pentagon, and, of course, into the World Trade Center in New York City. President Joe Biden was a senator back in 2001, and he joined the commemoration event at Ground Zero this morning. Former Presidents Clinton and Obama were there with him, and former President George W. Bush, who was in office on September 11th, is with mourners in Pennsylvania today, along with current Vice President Kamala Harris. More than 300 firefighters died on 9/11, and when a firefighter in Portland saw the coverage in New York, he knew he had to go help.
So we sat and watched the TV, just like everyone else, until I recognized my friend from New York, who was a FDNY firefighter, running down the street with the collapse following him. And it was, there's 11,000 firefighters in New York City, and whether I imagined seeing him or whether it was him, because he was there, and it just hit me, that we've got to go back and help him.
20 years later, retired firefighter Wes Laux will be part of Portland's remembrance of those lost in the 9/11 attacks. That event will include music and remarks from other firefighters who traveled to help in New York. Now, because of COVID, that ceremony at Firehouse 1 is closed to the public, but you can watch it online on the Facebook page for the Portland Firefighters Association. And a heads up, just so you know, happening today, F-15 jets will fly over parts of our area. The Oregon National Guard jets are scheduled to fly over the Lynn County Courthouse in Albany at 9:03 a.m., then up to Waterfront Park in Vancouver by 9:15. They're going to be going 400 miles an hour. And they're also going to get as low as 1,000 feet above the ground. Of course, that day is burned into memory, many of our memories. And I remember my 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Winiger at Glencoe Elementary here in Portland, explaining to my classmates exactly what happened. And it's a lesson, of course, she never expected to teach. But for anyone in their mid-20s or younger, they're either too young to remember or they weren't born yet. So our Christine Pitawanich explores how local schools now teach about that dark time in history.
When it comes to state standards in Oregon or Washington, there is no specific requirement referencing 9/11. Instead, students learn about current events and gain more historical knowledge as they get older.
So I'm Akayla Duncan and I'm in 8th grade.
Akayla says she doesn't remember learning much at all about September 11th before 6th grade.
I probably learned more about 9/11 at my home than at school.
Jenica Duncan is Akayla's mom.
It has surprised me in the past. I remember asking my kids, like, oh, it's September 11th. Did you talk about it in school? And 9 times out of 10, they'd be like, no.
Teachers, depending on curriculum and grade level, can use their discretion as to how they choose to address past events like 9/11. Doug Robertson, a 5th grade teacher in the Gresham Barlow School District, plans to ask questions and see what his students know.
These kids, it's the past. It's ancient history to them. I have found in my class that it's really helpful to teach from stories. The kids latch on to stories better.
Fourth grade teacher Wendy Mudd, who teaches in the Gladstone School District, plans to focus on the heroes.
And the people pulling together in our communities, first responders and people like that.
Both Robertson and Mudd say at their grade levels, there's a lot of emphasis on core curriculum like math, reading, and writing. They don't have a lot of time for more, but they try to touch on 9/11 as best as they can.
I assume that they will learn more about it in high school.
That's a good assumption.
Myself and Jacob Burton and Jacqueline George, we teach at Columbia River High School in Vancouver, Washington, and we all share the same subject. We teach the U.S. history, which is 11th graders.
I like to start out the class with just finding out, what have they heard about 9/11?
The focus, I think, is just going to be on providing as much information as possible and really answering students' questions.
Getting them to think about how the present has been shaped by that event.
And that's the key for students to understand why they should care. Teachers I spoke to hope to link the historical significance and world-altering events of 9/11 to what students are experiencing right now. Because 20 years from now, historically speaking, people may be talking about the COVID-19 pandemic in a similar way. Christine Pedawanich, KGW News.
Well, fast forward, after 20 years of war, and evacuation flights from Afghanistan are again flying out with Americans on board. 2 flights took off yesterday. But thousands of Afghans who helped the United States during the war are still stranded. Some are rushing for the border, trying to cross into neighboring Pakistan. 113 people were on board the first international flight from Kabul's airport. That included Americans, Canadians, Brits, Ukrainians, and Germans. NBC's Ralph Sanchez was there when it landed.
This is it. After a perilous journey that started in Kabul through an airport controlled by the Taliban, these passengers are coming down the steps here in Doha, finally to safety and security.
What a journey. Now, for those desperate to leave Afghanistan in the last few weeks, walking across the border was the only way out. The new Taliban guard says Pakistan is not letting everyone through, but 2 sisters were among those who made it.
If you had stayed under Taliban rule, what would that have been like?
The big problem was that the girls was not allowed to go to school.
Now, they are headed for Canada. Around 158 passengers were on board the second flight out of Kabul yesterday, including more American citizens. All right, here at 8:42 in the pandemic this morning, Republicans are threatening to sue over the president's vaccine mandate. In addition to large companies, that requirement includes mandatory vaccines for federal workers and contractors. Federal employees have 75 days to get vaccinated, and those who don't could face fines or be fired. The president's plan will also double TSA fines for travelers who do not mask up, and it includes low-cost at-home tests available this week. Here in Oregon, there's also a new lawsuit challenging Governor Kate Brown's vaccine mandates. 6 people are behind it. They say they don't need the vaccine because they already had COVID and have natural immunity. Those suing have jobs that will be impacted by the governor's mandate. The CDC, though, recommends vaccines even for people who have previously had COVID. Another strain of the coronavirus is now in the U.S., and so far it has only been detected in North Texas. Dallas County officials reported 5 cases of the Mu variant. That accounts for less than 0.5% of all cases across the state.
It does not appear to be outcompeting the Delta variant and doesn't appear to be a major concern at this point.
But doctors are, of course, keeping a close eye on it. Along with vaccines, doctors say masking and distancing are still the best ways to prevent variants.